Parler's board of directors has fired the CEO of the company. Here's my thoughts. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to another potentially politically sensitive video as politics tend to intrude more and more on the tech sector. Of course, in this case, Parler in and of themselves have they grew themselves in being a political activist of some sort, so maybe it's just, common knowledge. So anyway, we should have known this was coming. Anyway, so Parler, been going through a lot of stuff with Parler. Parler grew exponentially fast as conservatives and extreme right-wingers, who are, by the way, not in the same category. You can be conservative and Christian, want to use Parler and not be extremist. Want to make that absolutely clear. But these people are fleeing Facebook and Twitter for conservative persecution, in some cases, perfectly legal persecution if you are, say, a P to the O to someone who wants to attack other people because you think an election was fraudulently stolen. This is a complicated topic to discuss. Anyway, Parler grew fast, but then was removed from Apple's the Apple Store and the Google Play Store, and then the site pretty much went online when Amazon decided not to host it anymore, and now they are apparently getting back online by being on servers in Russia, which doesn't sound like anything wrong can happen on that one. However, the site may have faced a big setback, or maybe this is a new beginning, as Parler's CEO has been fired. Now, the headline here says Parler's former CEO says he was fired for wanting to moderate right-wing extremism on the platform. Although it seems a little bit more complicated than that, so let's look at what this story's about. From Business Insider. John Matz, the former chief executive of right-wing social media app Parler, who was fired last month, says his ousting by the company's board was in response to his push for more strict moderation of extremism and violence on the platform. He told NPR in an interview published Wednesday night that his termination came after disagreements with Parler board member and conservative mega donor Rebecca Merker over the app's content moderation policies. He wanted to up moderation efforts after far-right extremists used the app to organize the Capitol riots in January, he told the outlet, but was met with resistance by the Merker-controlled board. Now, it's interesting that this is his excuse, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but let's continue the article for the time being. Matz first revealed his departure to Fox Business Wednesday. In a memo obtained by Fox, Matz told employees that he was fired on January 29th and that he, quote, did not participate in the decision. Quote, over the past few months, I've met constant resistance to my product vision, my strong belief in free speech, and my view of how the Parler site should be managed, he said in a statement. For example, I advocated for more product stability and what I believe is a more effective approach to content moderation. Parler's hosting of far-right groups and a lack of content moderation relative to larger platforms like Facebook and Twitter made it a natural choice for fringe groups after the Stop the Steal organizing had been kicked off traditional social media platforms. I will pause and state for a minute that this is why I believe in content moderation. I don't believe that everything should be the Wild Wild West. I don't believe in censorship per se, but I think people are really misunderstanding the difference between censorship and moderating actual hate speech. Like, for example, I am against canceling of books before they're even printed because some people don't like the content of the books for whatever reason. Or maybe banning a movie like Song of the South, which, is not exactly the squeakiest clean movie in the world. It has issues, I acknowledge that, but for historical purposes, it should at least be viewable. We can't forget that this used to be a thing, and while we could always do better, we still come a long way from that. But on the other hand, when Amazon, for example, removes a book about how to best groom a 14-year-old and is written by a registered P to the O, I'm sorry I have to say terms like that, it's YouTube's algorithm, and is encouraging people to do illegal behavior, I don't think that's censorship. That's just enforcing the law. You can't go in the middle of a theater and yell fire. In very much the same way you can't write books explaining how to do illegal things. That's not what is good. And so I think Parler's freedom of speech thing, that's one of the problems when you host yourself on free speech. You can say whatever you want. Well, people say whatever they want, and they organize, and they get dangerous. And so that's one of the reasons why Matt claims he wanted to moderate the site better, although I have my doubts about that. Let's continue. The ability to potentially violent extremists resulted in the effective shutdown of the app after the Capitol riots as Google and Apple removed Parler from their app stores. Amazon Web Services ceased service as well, resulting in the platform going offline for part of January. The site reappeared online on January 15th with a message from Matt. Now Parler's website is hosted by Epic, Insider reported, but isn't fully operational. Its homepage still advertises technical difficulties. Parler did not immediately respond to requests for comment about Matt's termination. His comments this week appear to shed new light on an ongoing disagreement among Parler stakeholders about content moderation and how to address violent or extremist speech. Read the original article on Business Insider, because we're reading this on MSN. So what are my thoughts on this? Well, first of all, if Matt was serious about moderating the website, a little bit more common sense, I should say. Again, you don't censor people for having specific points of views. If they have a, point of view that you disagree with, that's one thing. Heck, you could even believe that we didn't actually go to the moon. Overall, harmless conspiracy theory. But if you're actually saying, hey, go to the Capitol, bring your guns, let's take back the vote. I mean, I'm sorry, that is an extremist thing. That's a call to violence. That should not be on the website. And yes, before anyone comments, I am so totally aware that Antifa does things like this on Twitter and Facebook, and they don't get moderated nearly as hard. We're not talking about Facebook and Twitter right now. We're talking about Parler. So look, if Matt actually wanted to do that, I commend him for that. But I'm kind of wondering how truthful he's being right now, if only for this. You see, I think Matt is frankly a terrible CEO. I think he has managed Parler extremely poorly. And while I believe that there was a disagreement on how to handle the speech problem on Parler, I don't think Matt was the one pushing for more moderation, at least not based on previous actions. I could be wrong, but keep in mind, when Apple first gave Matt the ultimatum on, what they wanted from the site, or else they would be removed from the Apple Store, Matt went on this huge tangent about how freedom of speech was under attack and how they moderate enough already, and they're, Apple's just trying to create a monopoly. You know what? That's not your first response. Don't go for the nuclear option right away. The way you handle a situation like that, my opinion, is you make a statement saying, we condemn the violence that happened on Capitol Hill. These are our moderation policies. Now, in response to recent events, we are going to add these additional moderation policies and try to work to get the site better moderated. And who knows, maybe Apple would have accepted those compromises, or those additions, I should say. And if Apple didn't accept those compromises, then you can make a statement about how freedom of speech is under attack and that Apple is requiring far more stringent moderation rules on you than compared to Twitter and Facebook. Likewise, when he was pulled from Apple and Google's store and Amazon stopped hosting him, he did the freedom of speech attack again and sued Amazon. And the judge, by the way, I didn't report this, but the judge threw that out because Amazon has every right to not host what they don't want to host. And by the way, Amazon pointed out, rightfully so, they don't host Twitter or Facebook. So if you have an issue about double standards about being on the App Store, you have to take it up with the App Stores, which I said from the beginning, that's what he should do. He should sue Apple and Google first because they are still hosting Facebook and Twitter, and they have hate speech on it as well. And how can Parler be singled out for this particular instance? It's not like extreme right people aren't also using Facebook and Twitter. They use all the platforms that they can. So I think he has just mishandled this company and the controversies since day one. So while I do believe that there is a disagreement about moderation, I don't think he's the one pushing for more moderate sensibilities. Now, evidence might come out that proves me wrong on that statement. Personally, I think Parler can be an okay site. I mean, I am a member of it. I barely use it. I pretty much set it up just to make a video. But the thing is, it's a functional site. It works just as well as Facebook in many respects. And if nothing else, I think Facebook could use some competition. But there is a problem when it's like, look, if this site becomes known as the place where the Kuan conspiracy and violent people can gather because they can plan assaults and attacks on people without basically any pushback or the site removing these things, then that's a problem. Parler does need to work on it. Now, by the way, if Matt is telling the truth, and if he did want to push for more sensible moderation and the board is trying to stop him, well, then good on him and shame on the board for resisting that. Here's the thing. I do believe in freedom of speech, but the thing is, I moderate my comments. Why? Because I say, hey, we can disagree. You can disagree with me all I want, but you know what you will not do? You will not threaten to kill me. You will not threaten to hurt my viewers. You will not threaten to do these things that are illegal. Those comments will be removed. Well, but right before they were saved in a folder just in case I ever need to go to the police. But, that's the life of a YouTuber, especially a YouTuber who has a bully who sicks his followers on you. Situation's largely gone, but that was a real scary time in my life. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, that's my opinions on Parler. I do hope Parler gets all this worked out. I do think Facebook and Twitter do need some competition. Same thing with Minds, same thing with Gab. But the thing is, it's just a reality. You can't have complete freedom of speech on these online platforms because some people use freedom of speech to intentionally hurt people. And much like you can't talk about hurting someone in real life because if you get overheard, the police will step in and arrest you, you can't just talk about hurting people on the internet. It just does not work that way. And yeah, those things need to be taken away. But hey, people want to say that Biden is not their president, that Trump will be the only man they respect. You know what? Hey, disagree with that sentiment. Can't stop people from having that sentiment. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this. What about your thoughts on this? Do you believe Matt's? Do you believe that he was trying to moderate the site even better? Do you think the board is the one that wanted to moderate better and Matt's was the one who was, pushing back on that? Do you think Parler needs to be moderated at all? Are you a member of Parler? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. And I say flame responsibly because, we might remove comments that are violent.